Hello and welcome to this video. In this video I will take an in-depth look into the Indian card Grazing. When you send this card, all your camels start gathering food and all your elephants start gathering wood. So in what situations is this card actually worth it? And what is the maximum value you can get out of this card? But before we answer these questions, let's first take an in-depth look what the card actually does, and also let's outline the assumptions for this video. Okay, so when you send this card, each camel gathers 0.05 food per second and each elephant gathers 0.1 food per second. Since the Indian explorers are also counted as elephants, they also start gathering wood. In case you're wondering, they even gather wood when they are dead on the ground. So those monks are some real employees of the month. They are even working while they are unconscious. Okay, so let's quickly talk about the assumptions. To compare the different resources with each other, so food, wood and gold, I use the equivalent food worth. So 100 wood is worth 125 food and 100 gold is worth 115 food. Okay, so now let's compare the grazing camels and the grazing elephants with some generic villagers and also with the cards mercantilism and foreign logging. So one villager gathers 0.84 food per second, so that means you need 17 camels to have one villager worth of value. Also, the minimum value you're getting out of grazing at all times is that you gather 0.2 wood per second or 0.25 food equivalent per second. That's because you can't lose your explorers. Another interesting question for me is how many camels or elephants do you need until your grazing is worth more than your foreign logging. This calculation also already includes the gather rate of your explorers. So if you have 54 camels and 2 explorers, and you still have the choice between foreign logging and grazing, sending grazing is the better choice in that case. Or if you have 22 elephants plus your explorer elephants, then also your sending grazing is more valuable than sending foreign logging. Okay, so now let's look deeper into it, how good grazing actually is in the late game. So what are the payback times for your elephants or your camels when you build your camel or elephant solely for the purpose of grazing? You might ask this question in a treaty game where you have like 20 minutes left of the treaty and you want to improve your EQ a little bit more. Okay, so the unit which pays back the fastest is the flail elephant, which only takes 35 minutes to pay back. And then the second best unit is the Sambarak, who needs to stay alive 43 minutes until it grazed back its initial cost. As each elephant only needs to stay alive for the duration of 5 average games until he grazed back his initial cost. So to answer that question, don't build camels or elephants solely for your EQ bonus. That usually is not worth it. Okay, so now the last question is, if you have an army of already 20, 100 and 200 population of one unit type, so for example 20 Sambaraks or 10 Sawas, what is the villager equivalent gather rate of this army? So for example you have 100 Sambaraks and those 100 Sambaraks would gather at a similar rate as 6 villagers would. So in a real game, the most realistic scenario is that you maybe see 20 Sambaraks or maybe sometimes 50 Sambaraks. Then 20 Sambaraks would be worth around 1 villager and 50 Sambaraks would be worth around 3 villagers. Note for this graph, I assumed that you sent the card where your elephants cost less population. So that means the most efficient grazing unit is the flail elephant. So if you're ever wondering what is the flail elephant good at, the answer is grazing. Okay, so let's summarize this video really quickly. In my opinion, grazing is not worth it in most situations. It should never be a high priority card for you. Once you have around 50 camels, so for example if you are going for Gurkha Sambarak, then it can be a decent choice. But yeah, in most other situations it's usually not worth it to get that card or to waste a deck slot for that card. In treaty, the maximum value you will get from this card is 6 to 7. Especially considering that in treaty, your army will be a mix of Gurkha, Sepoy, Sauras, Sambaraks and maybe some elephants, and that a realistic value you will get from this card is 1 to 3 villagers, so it's not really worth it in my opinion. The average value in treaty is probably similar to another trickle card, and you usually don't see that in treaty as well. So this will be the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, just post them in the comments and I will see you around. Bye bye!